Hello everyone and welcome to this business of therapy. My name is Jude Fay and I want to tell you a little bit about myself and about why I do this work. I suppose the story started for me when I was working in the accountancy profession, which I did from the time in my early 20s, and I had got to a stage in my life where the job that I was doing really wasn't making me happy. In fact, it was making me very unhappy. And I'd been interested in personal development for a long time. And so I decided to retrain as a therapist. And when I was training, I was absolutely astonished that there was no reference at all to how people might make their way in the profession, how they might earn a living in the profession after they had qualified. I was used to the accountancy profession where there were a lot of supports, there were career evenings, there was mentorship. I myself did a job for a while where I was helping young qualified accountants go into practice for the first time, and I was absolutely astonished that there was absolutely nothing to help therapists. I was in a slightly better position than most people. I knew a bit about business, having been around the accountancy world for a long time. And also I had been self-employed for a number of years as an accountant in private practice. But most of the people that I encountered weren't in that position, and they were coming from other roles where they had been an employee for all of their lives and had really no idea how to start about setting off on the self-employed journey and making a living out of their newly found skills. And so myself and my colleague set up our own practice very soon after we qualified, and although we had some success, for me at any rate, it was slow, and I made it as far as having just about enough income from my practice, but I couldn't get past that place where I was literally waiting for the next client to come in so as to be able to pay my bills at the end of the week. And I knew that, bad and all as I was, I knew there were other people who were finding it even more difficult than I was. I know many people who ended up going back to salaried employment in occupations that they didn't want to do to supplement the income from their therapy practices. And so I began to get interested in the whole question of why I was finding it so difficult, especially since I had been self-employed before. And I started to talk about it with people, I started to write about it, and it really has been a fascinating journey for me, exploring all of that. And the really interesting thing is that as I explored what was getting in the way for me, and sort of brought that into consciousness and went about repairing that or resolving that in myself, making friends with it, if you like, my money situation started to change and my practice started to flow much more easily. Clients arrived without there being sort of gaps in my income. It became much easier. And a lot of very interesting things came out of me talking to people and writing about these issues. Things that I didn't know had been there, like our money stories being, deeply ingrained in us, just as our stories about everything else are. Our money stories are so deeply ingrained in us, and the impact that they then have when we set out to try and earn our living from this work. And, here in Ireland, It's interesting how many times, for example, First Communion money comes into the conversation about money stories. And I've met many people who had things happen around the First Communion, which is forever stuck in their unconscious as a way that money is. So, you know, for example, the person whose communion money was taken away from them on their communion day, and the money was never given back, and that person was then living out that pattern in their practice, in their money story. They'd get money coming in, a big pile of money coming in, and then suddenly a bill or some problem would arise out of the blue and they'd be broke again. Or there was the practitioner who told me that she was brought around the neighbourhood in her communion dress, and she had this memory of having to kiss this old person who lived up the road who smelt of whiskey and urine. And forever in that practitioner's mind is this association with, I have to do something unpleasant in order to earn money. I have to do something which is really against what every fibre of me wants to say no. So you can imagine, of course, that when that person sets out to make their living, to ask people for money for doing their work, of course those sort of feelings and tensions are going to get in the way. Another practitioner told me recently that she had always believed that business people were robbers and bad people who made their money on the backs of others. And then she went on to say, but now I know that I deserve to be paid for my work, and that makes me a better therapist because I value myself. And it's so heartening to me when I see people coming around in that way, when I see the changes happening, when somebody who's been struggling to attract clients says to me, you know, since I spoke to you last week, 3 new clients have appeared. Or somebody who's been finding it really difficult to engage with some aspect of their practice says, you know, that thing I've been trying to do for the last year, well, I actually got something done on it this week. And that just gives me such huge, huge pleasure, because the work that we do in the world as therapists and coaches and supervisors, it is such important work. It is harsh work. And I don't think that the reward for doing that work should be that you have to live in financial hardship. And the really surprising upside of it is that when we do that work in ourselves, our lives get better and more abundant, and so do the lives of our clients. We're able to pass on those learnings. So that's why I do this work. So if there's anything that I can do to help you in your practice, to help you either establish, set up your practice if you struggle with the business aspects of it, or if there's something in your money story that needs to be resolved, and you'll know that. You'll know there's something in your money story. You may not know what it is, but you'll have found yourself getting to such and such a level and then not being able to get past that. So if there's something I can help you with, I'd be delighted to do that. I'd be delighted to hear from you. You can find my contact details there on the screen, and please contact me at any time. I'd be really glad to hear from you.